99 FM, Urban Sounds, Global Minds, where local is toch altijd lekker. Oef. It feels like a Friday, but it's not a Friday yet. But I always say we can party like it's a Friday every day on Hitsville to put ourselves into that mood, man. You know, into that happy mood. It's time for Culture Talk here on Hitsville, 36 minutes past 1. Good afternoon to you, and I hope you're having a lekker day in the company of 99 FM. It is now time for Culture Talk, and like I mentioned, I'll be joined in studio by the chairman of the National Arts Council of Namibia and also a board member of the International Federation of Art Councils and Cultural Agencies, Patrick Sam. We are talking about arts and culture post-COVID-19. We all know that all the industries basically has been affected by this pandemic. But how has the National Arts Council of Namibia, of course, you know, tried to help in this regard? So we're joined by Patrick Sam. His first time here with me on Hitsville. Good afternoon to you, Patrick.
Good afternoon, Treza, and to all the listeners out there. 99.
Yeah.
We are being woke. We are being Afropolitans here.
Yes.
We are rethinking the discourse.
That's the mission.
Yes.
That's the purpose right here. But welcome to 99, Patrick, and thank you for joining us on the show. We are here to talk about arts and culture post-COVID-19. I think, you know, it is, I think, like, you know, music and arts and just overall the cultural and arts industry is very important because at times like this, we need art, we need music, we need just liveliness, and it has been affected, but there has been a relief fund made available for artists. But let's just quickly talk about, you know, how the COVID-19 relief fund application has been received by artists thus far.
I think, you know, interestingly, obviously it's always a mixed bag. It's Namibia. We live in a pluralistic society.
Yes.
And obviously we expect multiple views and multiple responses in this context. So I think what's important to understand is what arts, culture, and heritage does fundamentally for a person. It promotes like pleasure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's really like the industry of pleasure and wants. But where does pleasure get positioned in a time of a pandemic?
Yeah. That's a good question.
And I think that's what we're struggling with. Like, what do we prioritize in terms of our behavior, in terms of our habit? Because also you need pleasure to sustain you during the pandemic.
As the spirits up. You know what I mean?
As a human being.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of being. So I think the dynamic of the global context, continent, country, communities, individuals have changed to the point where we can't access pleasure as easily. So what does that do to our psyches? What does that do to our spirit? And I think that's what happened at a human level. What happened at a market level was that your artists could just normally put your things out there, and people would demand it. So you know, you could go out and have a concert, you could go out to the movies, you could go out and, you know, buy like fashion and go to fashion shows, and you could go out there and enjoy, you know, theater plays and things like that. But essentially there was no market anymore. So there was nobody that was buying the artist's goods and services.
Yeah.
So what happens in the instance of these two things falling away? The idea, one, of pleasure, but the other idea of livelihood. Like, you know, like I always say, you know, the difference in maybe Africa is black livelihoods matter.
Exactly.
You know, that's maybe the nuance difference between Black Lives Matter versus like black livelihoods matter. And COVID really brought that to the forefront. Yeah. Right? And so what we did was, we got a little bit of money. So a lot of people thought that the stimulus money came from the Ministry of Finance. Initially, we were pitching for that. Then it was said, it's not a priority sector. And you must understand under public policy how things become a priority. Things become a priority because there's a public demand for it.
And there is a demand for this. There is a demand for arts and culture.
How do we prove that?
Exactly. That's the question. Where does the proof come from? Is the proof in the pudding, like they say?
Well, I can give you, like, you know, UNESCO stats that talk about this industry that hires, you know, that's over $2.2 trillion worth, that hires over like 300 million people globally. The problem is Africa only gets 1% of that cake.
It's a very small percentage.
But yes. So COVID comes to the forefront where we're like, you know, one thing we did well was we didn't lose artists. So we were able to save lives. And I think that's important in terms of the response. Secondly, we're trying to say, we want to promote the things that give us pleasure. The things that give us pleasure is the music, is the play, is the fashion, is the, you know, so the grant focused on arts, culture, and heritage in terms of like services and goods, not necessarily giving welfare to artists. And I don't think we got that right beginning. I think it was our blind spot, because when we call out the fund, we thought artists would naturally get that. We're trying to support their artwork. The work that they're doing, because now that's a double jammy, because now we get the pleasure out of you and we're able to give a livelihood out of you. But it's like a fine balance because we don't have a lot of money. because there's no public demand to say, we demand bigger budgets for arts, culture, and heritage for the creative industries. So public policy works on public demand. And we need to strengthen that relationship. And the only way we can do that is by getting art activists.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that there's a lot of artists around the country, a lot of people who have exhibitions going out. But what is being done? What measures have been put in place, Patrick, to make sure that those in remote areas of the country are also able to apply for this fund?
For a great question. That's obviously one of the biggest things, and that's why the fund obviously was delayed a little bit, because we needed a system to ensure that people are able to access the funds. So we had to, for instance, contact the regional council offices, the constituency offices, make sure people were sensitized. The ministry and the directorate also have what we call art extension workers. There's about 56 of them countrywide. They were sending out this information through that. We've also been on local radio stations, speaking in vernaculars, explaining what the fund is there for. Obviously, we hired a digital agency as well to allow people to migrate digitally, to create content that can be shared through WhatsApp and through more contemporary means as well. The biggest advertisers also like word of mouth. We've obviously sensitized. This is part of that campaign as well. But the assurance is that constituency councillors know, people that are in touch with the communities.
Of course,
also, and remember, we do this every year. We have a grant application process. The only difference this time was that we digitally migrated. So our jury meets online. Also, it was the first time that the public gets to nominate who serves on the jury. You don't hear about a fund that's out there, a public fund that says, public, you get to choose.
You get to choose
who's who's on there. So really for us, it's, creating a world where people have inclusivity. So one of the things we're doing is commissioning a deaf theatre play with the Deaf Association and the National Theatre of Namibia, because we want to include and directly target people with disabilities. So the fund is dynamic. We'll also be starting public dialogues with a possible private sector partner, as well as workshops where artists can learn, the business of copywriting, business intellectual property. They can also learn about how to digitally migrate, because the ecosystem has changed.
It has changed. It has, truly.
The ecosystem has changed.
It brings me to our next question. I think a lot of things are migrating online now, or migrating digitally because of the coronavirus pandemic. And I think it has pushed us to rethink how we do things. And apart from this grant, Patrick, what other projects are in place that artists can look forward to engage and empower artists for the rest of 2020?
So the grant is dynamic in the fact that, so just talk a little bit about it. If you're an individual artist, this is really to reach people in the smallest corners. You can apply for up to $2,000. That's just to say, this is what I want to do. I want to buy some materials. I want to paint. I want to buy some
or record a song, or do a video, whatever the case might be.
That's really for you to just feel yourself to do something that's going to make you get closer to whatever more money you need. Second is, if you're more organized as a group or as an organization, you can apply for up to $75,000. All right. The third stream is that we have aided for about $1.5 million public institutions. So we've aided the NTN to come up with a project. So for NTN is going to continue their work they were doing already of paying an artist $1,000 for work that they were doing that was presented, I think, even before they were the first ones to kind of respond. So they're going to give access to 140 artists. Then we have the National Gallery as well. That's going to be telling the stories of visual artists and bringing in exhibitions from there. That's directly from the funding. Then we have the Museums Association that's running Heritage Week throughout the country. That's been funded.
Wow, so there is activity happening.
Then we have National Film Commission that's commissioned that you might have seen, short films.
I've seen it.
That's coming from our funding. Then we have NASCAM that we're still working on what will be the intervention that we're coming up with. We'll have the College of the Arts coming up something with the students. So the idea is that the intervention is multifaceted because the challenge, so it's not just us that are going to be offering directly money to the artists, but these public institutions or public interest institutions are also going to be offering programs as well.
That's great. That's amazing. Patrick, just one final question. We're all experiencing this pandemic and we're all dealing with it in different ways. But how would you advise artists to navigate this period in order to survive both financially and, most importantly, emotionally and mentally?
Wow, that's very interesting, because I think part of the challenge is trying to validate the past into the future. Like you just want to have to press reset, because you haven't done it, the world's done it for you.
Exactly.
Right? So I think the biggest thing is understanding the ecosystem that we're talking about, and it's not getting back to the basics. It's becoming more
adapting. You have to adapt.
Adapting, and how you adapt is the question now. So for me, the first thing you have to do as an artist in introspecting is understanding that you gotta be loved. And the way to be loved is to be relevant.
Yes.
You know, like, and people want to make money, but they don't even question, like, yo, is there a demand for my work? Because I think Namibian, the creative industry, the blind spot is that we're so supply driven.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, I met my producer. I busted the song. I uploaded my content. But the question is, where's the demand for your content? Are you building relationships that's going to create the demand?
Very important.
The demand, because people are like, yo, I moved online, great, but are you monetizing from being online? And that's different, because when you go into the space of online, now you're all of a sudden competing with Rihanna.
Yeah.
You're competing with the content that Beyonce that brought out. You know, because now I have to choose what to use my data on.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing. Do people love you? And the way you have to think about love is in the idea of care and support. Do you care about the people? Are you relevant? Does the music touch them?
Yeah.
Is it about, the senses, the emotions? Do they make them like trigger? Let's get to being human beings. And as artists, you have to share that being. And you can't now say, I'm not monetizing, and hold people like hostage.
Yeah.
Because you supplied that. Nah, bro. Where's the demand? Where's the demand at?
Nah, bro. Nah.
No, sister. Where's the demand? And you'll see when the demand is there, you're gonna be loved.
Exactly. You're gonna be loved. I love it. Patrick, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you, because you're always so honest and so real about things that affect you and affect the rest of the arts and culture and heritage industry in Namibia. So thank you so much for coming to talk to us. Just last question for the folks who are listening right now. Any artists or organizations who would like to apply for the fund? I know you guys are going to be rolling out the next applicant or announcing who else is going to be getting the funding, but just process-wise, like, what do I do? Where do I go if I want to get an application form to apply for this fund?
The easiest part, obviously, is our website, artcouncilnam.org. All the information is out there. We can find us on Instagram as well. You can find us on Twitter as well. We've obviously hired a digital agency that is doing the work for us. It's a revolving fund, so you can apply anytime between now and the 30th of September.
Okay.
So we have the judges sit every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks we make an announcement. So this week's announcement will be latest by Friday.
Okay.
I know the judges are sitting right now as we speak. And they're deciding who will be the first in the second round.
Yes,
the first round we handed out $300,000, and so hopefully by the end of September we would have spent close to the $5 million.
Thank you so much, Chairman of the National Arts Council of Namibia. That's Patrick Sam, just giving us a bit of a lowdown of arts and culture and heritage post COVID-19. So again, thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us here at 99. Awesome. Patrick Sam in the building, and you are still listening to Hitsville on your inspiration station, hoping that you're having a lekker day in my company, as much as I always enjoy keeping you company here on Hitsville.